All right, welcome to filtering. By the end of this lesson, you should be able to filter data with React. All right, let's talk about the mechanics of filtering a little bit. Let's draw the picture. So one aspect of this is a controlled form. The second aspect of this is a computed property. This specific term, computed property, doesn't get used a ton in React literature. It gets used in every other framework, but it's the same shit. So if you start experimenting with other frameworks, you see that term come up. It's exactly what we're going to talk about today. So the controlled form, let's review. We've got a search term. Where does the value of the search term come from? State, exactly. State, search term. Awesome. How does that get updated?
On change.
On change. So on change, we do what?
Set state.
Yep. We have a function that handles change. And you set state. And on it goes this thing of ours. So that's half the equation. The other half of the equation is this computed property. So I have state items some items. And then the computed property filters, changes them, does something. And then, oops, not form. That goes into the template. I sort of drew it like a circle, but it's not actually a circle. It ends there. The key trick to this, though, is that whatever your things in state are, you're not changing state at all. You're just not directly rendering the state. You're rendering something that's based on the state. That's a filter. Any conceptual questions about this before we get started?
I guess it's probably just going to come down to like a conditional rendering thing, but if there's no filter, nothing's been filtered out, and you want everything that just, never mind.
We're going to get to that. You're always rendering the computed property. You're never rendering the state directly, even in that case. And we're going to see why that's going to work. It's going to be awesome. Glorious! Anything else? Cool, let's make it happen. Get at all this baby stuff. All right, let's say, what are we filtering? Give me a noun. Cool. So we're going to create React app fruit stand. Cool. You do this too.
Did you do npm install immediately after, or is that just for
It's-
cloning?
It'll do it automatically for you. It's part of the Create React app.
Okay.
It's part of this long, boring shit that it's doing right now.
Okay. It's only when you're working and cloning a React thing that you need to run it? Okay.
Correct. Because the package JSON is instructions for what should be installed, but it doesn't actually have the things with it, which is good, because otherwise every time you fork and clone something, you'd be downloading a gig of shit.
Sure.
And GitHub doesn't want to store that. Make it NPM's problem.
Who manages npm, or like the whole?
NPM Incorporated.
Okay.
It's a company. By selling private NPM repos. So like if imagine you have a big company and you want people to be able to NPM install packages that are your company specific that you also don't want to be public, NPM sells that. They're also like vaguely evil, and so there's that hasn't always been the case. It's like in the last 2 years, they've gotten like increasingly evil. They've had pretty much an entire like management changeover, and there's a lot of people that are extremely unhappy with NPM Incorporated right now, and so there's been a move to like have everybody go to a more community-driven module repository. GitHub also actually has one now, although GitHub is Microsoft, so it's very difficult to make a case that that's less evil than NPM. So there you go. All right, so we have Fruit Stand. I want you to go into Fruit Stand. And let's do a little bit of cleanup first. I'm going to get rid of all the stuff in the CSS file. Let me get rid of everything except this wrapper. Get rid of the logo. Just don't want all this noise. Get rid of that CSS. All right, I'll get rid of the service worker. Get rid of that. Nice, clean, fresh project. All right, beautiful. So now, it doesn't do anything. npm start. Go into that app component. And, oh man, I am hating this extension that I installed yesterday. We'll say h1 fruits, and it is going to have a UL in it. Oh, this is coming out immediately. And this is going to have a class name of fruits. All right, cool. We're going to store some state in here, so let's make this a class component. This needs to be in a render function. Oh god, it's like getting constantly trolled. Stop! Oh! Ugh.
What was this extension supposed to do for you?
It's supposed to auto-format my code as I type, except it does things like... like that. Cool. So now I've got a class-based component, and in state, we're going to put fruits. It's going to be an array. And just to keep this authentic, it's going to be an array of objects. And they'll have a name property like apple, banana, and carrot. Cool. It's a root. I don't know. Don't overthink it. So all set up, ready to go. Next thing we're going to do is we're just going to render the fruits directly. So we'll have something like fruits are this dot state dot fruits dot map, and what did this just do to me? Map. Killing me, Smalls. And then for each of these, we need to return list items that have that fruit.name in them. So we do this, we should have host 2000, something going on. Something it doesn't like. Some's not a constructor. All right, I got syntax. I don't think these just have semicolons.
Are you able to have your fruits function name the same as fruits state? Or is that going to cause some?
Yeah, because it's this dot state dot fruits, and that's just this dot fruits. We should be able to do this dot fruits like that. Where else? Oop. I see why. Because it is trying to do that. Thanks, prettier. There we go. If I wrap that in React tags, I'm showing a list of fruits. I should be showing a list of fruits. Oh, I need to return this. All right. So that's just showing a list of things. We've done that before. Questions about any of this? It's out of form. You need a controlled form for this. So we'll have an input with a value bound to this dot state dot search term. So it means we have to add a search term up here. And then we need an on-change handler for that, for the control. Say this dot handle change. Handle change takes in an event. And in that event calls this dot set state. search term is event.target.value. All right, if I did that right, I should have the search term up here and I can type in it. My form is under control. Badass. So far we have done this entire loop here. We are updating the search term state. We have the items in there. Now we just need to do this computed property and the template, and we're home. So the way this works, fruits is a good example of it. This is a computed property. Makes enough sense, right? We have something that's based on state. We have a list of fruits. We're going to turn them into a bunch of list items for fruits. We're going to do the exact same thing. So we'll call this filtered fruits, how about? And starts out the same way. We're going to take this .state.fruits and we're going to .filter it. And for each fruit, now we need to decide whether or not something makes the cut as a fruit. So we say if, let's see, return fruit. Let's see. Actually, you tell me. How am I going to do this? What's the logic for whether or not a fruit's name matches a search term? Give it a shot.
If this .state .fruits includes fruit, return. We want to be able to see only the fruits we're searching for. So we would then set state to this .set state, and then we probably take the fruit and spread it into the array.
Not a bad idea.
And then else, don't do that.
If there's a takeaway I'd have you have from this, this entire process involves no setting state.
No set state.
Yep.
Okay.
You do not need to do that to make a filter. And if you do it, you probably made a mistake. It's simpler than that. You were on the right track, though. So what is the function that we pass into filter? What does it need to return?
The name.
Nope.
Wait, what?
Good guess.
Array of names.
It's a filter. What do filters return?
Something based on a condition?
Yep. Just true or false. That's all it can do.
Okay.
Interesting. So, since I have this array of objects, that includes anything like that. That gets a little bit trickier once we have complex data types in there. So how can I make this just an array with apple, banana, and carrot? Hmm?
Wait, what are we doing?
I'm trying to. The thing that I eventually want. This goes back to Haskell. What's an easier problem to solve? If I just have this array, apple, banana, carrot, wow, that's real easy to see. Yeah, that might help. Yeah. God, I hate teaching this room. So if I have that, this gets substantially easier. Because then I could, if I'm looking for something truthy or falsy to return, dot includes this dot state dot search term. Or for each one, I guess. That's just easier to work with. Now I can do that if I map over all of those fruits. and take the fruit and just take its name. All right. So now I have an array. I have that array. It's just apple, banana, carrot. And then I want to filter through each of those and only keep ones where that fruit has some kind of match for my search term. So I can say return fruit dot includes this dot state dot search term. And now I have filtered fruits. So the only thing I need to change in this code now is instead of making those fruits based on state, make those based on filtered fruits. And now we don't need the name on that one either. Let's see if it works. Some of it doesn't like. Line 23. Filtered fruits dot map. Oop, it should be. This dot state dot fruits. I map through it. I spell things right. Filtered fruits dot map is not a function. All right. So debugging. What is it? It wasn't a reference error, so it's something. Ah, I know why. I know why. Because it's a function. There we go. All right, so if I type in apple, cool. I'm filtering, Mom, filtering. And for Carl's original question, well, what if I want everything to show up? Guess what? An empty string is in everything. So it'll always return true for that. Fucking cool.
You go back to your zone assignment.
See it work.
Now,
So are we going an extra step with the dot now?
not really.
Is that okay?
I'd say it's a pretty useful step. Now there's one more. You'll notice if I type APPL, what? Why? Why doesn't that work? What? I can do pull. That works. That doesn't. Casing. So let's say I want to do a case insensitive search. How do I modify this computed property?
Can't you either or do both of where you return just what line you're at?
Mm-hmm.
Return fruit dot do you return fruit dot what to lower case whatever the method is dot includes and then on the inside do state this state search term dot lower or
Yeah. I could do something like that.
and then you
Do it there too. Wonder if that works. You're a wizard, Harry. Cool. Of course, if it's me, that sounds like another opportunity to map something. Now they're just all that way. scope. Oh, it makes them show up that way too, though. Oops, never mind. Stop! Cool. That's a filter. That's literally it. So again, it's a controlled form, same as any other controlled form you've done, combined with a computed property that narrows down, filters, does whatever transformations we need, and then the template shows those instead. So the template shows this dot fruits. This dot fruits is the elementification of filtered fruits, not state dot fruits. Filtered fruits make sure that not every single one of the fruits makes it through. Questions? Oops, I need to change that. You need to lowercase it on both sides. The thing you're comparing and the thing you're comparing it to. Another way that I've seen this, instead of making this a function, just doing that directly. And then instead of invoking it, you just say this dot fruits. I think that still works. This dot filtered fruits is not a function. Oops. I think I have to put that inside the render method. Because the render method is just a and then yeah, this is just fruits then. There we go. Works the same way. You can also do it that way. I see that every once in a while in React things. We could technically do the same thing with filtered fruits, but then that render function starts getting kind of fat. Other questions? Yeah.
Where were your changes for case sensitivity? Two lowercase there.
So essentially, in this filter, we're returning something that's truthy or falsy.
Okay.
So we lowercase that and we lowercase that so they're normalized.
Yeah.
We're comparing
Got it.
apples to apples. What else do you want to know?
I want to know why my fruits aren't showing up.
Uh-oh. Let's see what you got going on.
Sometimes I try and code along that small stuff.
Okay. Let me see you down here. So this dot fruits, because it's a function, you gotta invoke it. Okay. And then fruits, gotta return this dot state. The fruits function isn't returning anything right now. It's doing that mapping operation and then evaporating. So you have the return on 116.
Oh.
Oh.
There we go.
Alright.
All right, let's see if your filter works. Oop. So we're showing this dot fruits, and we need this dot filtered fruits. Nope. Down here, because that's the thing that you want to show up on the page is your filtered fruits. Okay, and then instead of this dot state dot fruits, you want this to be this dot fruits. Because that's the, this dot fruits is what's getting the thing out of state, and then you need to invoke it too. And this is case sensitive. Okay, get in the ballpark. Good, good. Fruit dot lowercase. Mapping through this dot fruits. Ah, actually, no, we want this to be this dot fruits. Sorry, I got that backwards. Lowercase f. Yeah. And then this, instead of reading that out of state, we want that to be this dot filtered fruits. That's the thing we're making elements out of. Good. And then this, you want to be this dot state dot fruits.
Do return and filter.
And no, not invoked. And then this one is invoked.
The first return is because you're calling it in your fruits.
So this dot filtered fruits is a function. So we got it.
Oh.
Value to this one.
Yeah. Yeah.
If it's true, it'll make.
All right, in the ballpark at least. Oh, you don't need dot name anymore because we stripped the objects out already. Okay, now try filter. Beautiful. All right, anybody else having a hard time with their filters?
Yeah, it works.
Got it?
But I'm curious what determines what we need to return, like for instance, the dot map or dot filter within React.
Okay, so if you invoke this, it does these things, but if you don't have that top return on, nothing comes out of it.
Nothing is that.
Yeah.
Alright.
So like down in your template, if you don't, if you invoke it and it's not returning anything, it's undefined.
Alright. Cool. And if we set like const fruits down under the render, then we do not have to invoke the function.
Exactly.
Alright, but any other time we do.
Awesome. Anything else you want to talk about?
What did you just say?
Anything else you want to talk about?
So let's
About
let's talk about when things get returned and when things get invoked. So filtered fruits, this needs to return because I want to take the result of that and map over it. If I don't return anything, I'm trying to map over undefined.
okay.
Things that I need to invoke if I want the return value. So filtered fruits is a function. If I want access to this, I have to invoke it. If I don't invoke it, what I have is this function definition. Some things want function definitions. For example, like on change, on submit. Those want function definitions, so I shouldn't invoke them. Do I want the value of the function, or do I want the definition of the function? And if I want the value of the function is equal to whatever it's returning.
And you would send the definition of the function if you're like sending it down like in a
Exactly. I want this component to be able to call this function, so here it is.
Okay, so in that component, when I'm calling that function, I do want to invoke it. Okay,
Exactly.
all right.
Cool. So passing functions down to the graph.
Unless you want the value of that function, and then you
Yes.
invoke it. Exactly.
Okay.
Anything else?
Clarify that again. So you passing down the function, like you want the component to be able to run that function.
Correct.
You do invoke it. You do not.
You can't invoke it while you're passing it, because then you get the value of the function.
Right. But if you want it to value of the function, then you invoke it.
Correct.
Okay.
Otherwise, I'm giving you the definition of the function for you to invoke.
Right, so you would send down a
Yes.
stop function, not invoke.
Correct. What else?
Okay.
Going once. Twice. Good luck on the code challenge.